Hello, and welcome to this week's live event. My name is Jeff Rolka. This is your live event, and we are getting together this Saturday evening or morning or whatever time it happens to be wherever you are to talk all things vocals, music, etc., so on and so forth. There is no theme. It's just ask questions, and I will answer you as best I possibly can. Do feel free to interact with one another in the chat. That's what it is there for. It's obviously to ask questions and also to go back and forth. There's always a lot of interesting interplay. So welcome, Aldo. Welcome, and thank you as always. It's good to see you. It's nice to see you pop up. It's very comforting. And Susan Taylor, hey, it's welcome back. Welcome. The chat's open. I'll do my due diligence here and just say, those of you who have subscribed already, thank you so very much. And those of you who have not, I hope that you'll consider doing so now. I do have a question for all of you, actually, which is that there was another person last week. Good day, JC's Radiant Ray. Hey, I saw you out on the comments. Okay. Heavy, deep voice, can't sing pop. Please elaborate. How can I help you? I'd happily help you. How can I help you? If you don't want to, do you want to sing pop? Is that the problem? I'll dive in with that in just a moment. Now I've lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Oh, thanks for subscribing. Oh, right. The question was, how do you find the live event? Because I wanted to make a playlist where I could put the events so that it'd be easier to find them, but apparently you can't do it. So how is it that you find these things? Because obviously many of you do. Hello, Sir Rahul there. And hello, Greg. It's good to see you back. And Maz as well. Welcome back. Always nice to see your names pop up. I did have one question, and B. Sing H, please. I'd happily help. Just if you could elaborate a little bit on what's going on, then I can dive in. The first thought that comes to mind is you're too heavy in your thyroarytenoid singing voice, and lightening up down there will be a good start. Sudhaka Rao, hello. Welcome. Aldo, I remember the last number +1. Oh, right. Okay, that's great. Right, so you're doing a search for them. Very cool. Very, very cool. It seems like YouTube should let me make a playlist. That's what I don't understand, why I can't make this into a playlist like anything else. Hello, Zaroku. And I don't know why, but yeah, please, how you guys are finding the live event, that'd be very, very helpful. I don't recall the user ID from last week that had that question, but what I can do is just leave it in the comment section, and I think it'll ping back to that individual. Raul, sir, how to practice daily? I am beginner. Can you please guide where I should start? Absolutely. Beginner's playlist. The beginner's playlist is the place to begin. And specifically, there's a couple of videos that are labeled just beginner. And I would start with those. Those are going to start with dynamic airflow exercises. So a lot of stuff where it's we. And actually, this goes for you too, B, Sing, H. If you're really, really heavy, then those short exercises will help you balance airflow versus vocal fold engagement. And then from there, once that starts to get established, you can start practicing longer phrases. But that's where to begin. And a couple of those beginner lessons have a really nice progression too. So they'll take you through a couple short vowel exercises, and then they'll get into we, where it gives you an opportunity to connect through the notes. And those are really, really great for balancing tone. And quite frankly, one will do those exercises not just when they're first starting out, but whenever there's an imbalance in tone quality, and also can be extremely helpful as you move higher into your range in terms of getting a sense of, again, vocal fold engagement versus airflow as you move towards the zona di passaggio. Which kind of brings me to this question that I had from earlier this week. If I may read this briefly, and I can see a lot of stuff that's coming up, so this is really, really cool, and I want to make sure I get to that. I sometimes wonder if some voices are best suited for only certain genres. For example, I tend to have a bright, high voice, which some seem to see as for only ornamentation. I'm interested in your thoughts. Do you think with training and practice, any voice could learn to sing in any genre? Yes, with a certain caveat, kind of. And I think that there are always exceptions to this rule. I know that I will never sound like Barry White. I will never sound quite as lush in my lower mid-range as like a Billy Joel, and certainly like that vocalist from Crash Test Dummies, going way back. And I'm talking about people with really deep, rich, low register voices. I don't really have that, and as much as I can train and practice that and adopt some of it, my voice will only do that as well as it will do that. So, but I'm speaking more towards ranges rather than genres. Fosh and the intricacies, the minutiae of one's voice matters more in the classical realm than it does in the pop rock realm. You can find an exception to almost every rule in the popular music genres. Virtually every practice, or one might say that most male vocalists in rock should be tenors, and yet you get all sorts of different vocalists and different styles within that style itself. So while I think we can practice and sing whatever genre we please, there are certain aspects of it, certain ways of approaching it that will bring out the best in our voice. And that's why I always want to, I think of every voice as being its own unique individual mode of expression. And so if you want to sing pop rock or XY, whatever it is that you wish to sing, then we can look at it stylistically and adopt those stylings to your vocal delivery. However, we're still going to look at what makes your voice you and what are its absolute, amazing attributes and what are some of the challenges that you deal with, and address those in our practice. So, yes, with a caveat. I think that we can mostly sing in whatever genre we wish. Again, for classical, this can maybe be okay, maybe not be. And there is, of course, a price to pay for some of this too. If you want to sing musical theater, but you have a more delicate instrument, which you may find over time in practice, you may find that your instrument takes a beating more than others do. The requirements of musical theater, where a belted voice is oftentimes called for, may require you to take more time off or have more vocal issues later on down the line than someone whose instrument is more robust. Again, we just have to be sensitive and take into account our own individual differences. So I do hope that answers your question. Thank you. That was a great question. Now, on screen, JC's Radiant Ray. As a subscriber, I go to your channel and scroll down to the Q&A live session. I didn't know there was a Q&A live session category. And yes, Twitter, Maz Sidema, thank you. So I'm going to post those in the other comment section, and hopefully that'll help that person find these more easily. Greg is talking to Deep Voice Guy. Exactly. It's about knowing where the register changes are, thinning out the thyroarytenoid range, which, by the way, I'm contemplating calling the thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice the thyroarachnid dominant singing voice. I think, of course, I mean that utterly in jest, but I think it will help people remember thyroarytenoid as chest voice. Plus, I like the ring of it, thyroarachnid voice. I think that's really cool. That would be like if Spider-Man sang. He would have a thyro. I'm sorry, that's a really horrible joke, but yeah, I did just say that. Thyroarachnid. That would be Spider-Man's vocal category. It would be thyroarachnid. So Rocco, I was doing the wee. I managed to do okay on it. Good. Exactly. That is an exercise. It's the shortness of it. It sets you up for success. Vocalizations, at least the vocalizations on my channel, the order that the exercises are in, the collections of exercises are meant to set you up for success. That's why things are in the order that they are. That's why I don't know if anywhere on the channel in 400 videos you've got an exercise that starts off with ah. Ah. Almost everything starts with A into ah. Ah. Because I want to set you up to get a nice resonant sound on the ah syllable. And then over time, with practice, you'll memorize that position, and then you can just go straight into ah. I probably ought to do a couple of videos where we get right into that. Though I suppose there is the tonal onset video, which has the ah, and so that does give you the tonal onsets with ah as well. Let me see here. I got a little bit behind. Sudakar. I do hope I am pronouncing that close. I'm sure I'm a little bit off, but I do hope I'm close enough. Could you make some videos on vocal color? I have issues with timing. Please give me tips on improving rhythm and timing. Ah, yes, rhythm, the hidden killer in music. Counting in any way that you can. So if you're singing popular music forms, almost all of them will have what's called a backbeat. And that will mean that the kick drum is going to be on 1 and 3. And then the snare drum, or whatever is approximating it, it's going to be on 2 and 4. And there are, of course, a lot of exceptions to this in terms of the patterns. The patterns can be highly syncopated, can be anticipated, things like that. But start counting or tapping your foot or clapping your hands. You get that chick, chick, chick. Grunting, tapping, bobbing your head, whatever it is to start internalizing that pulse. As soon as you can do that and you can rely on it, move over to numbers. Because the sooner that you can get into counting numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, internally, then that just ups your accuracy by, a magnitude of order. It just makes you that much more clear on where things are. Once you've got whole numbers, start getting the subdivisions, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And once you're subdividing into quavers or eighth notes, if you will, then your rhythmical accuracy is going to improve quite a lot. And as far as vocal color, sure, I can talk about vocal color. You might check into the video on how to sing into the mask, because that particular resonance is one of the primary contributors to the different colorations of our voice. And I think if you search for how to sing with mask resonance or how to sing in the mask, there's 1 or 2 videos on that would get you started, while I think about more videos on coloration. Thank you. Matthew Barnett. How do you keep pitch much better? If you're singing out of tune, I look at intonation as an indication of a discrepancy in airflow and or vocal fold engagement. So if you're singing out of tune, I don't consider that to in and of itself be the problem. It's a symptom. It's like the runny nose, you know? If every time you went to the doctor and you had a cold or a virus or something was wrong with you and they just looked at your nose and said, "Oh, your nose is running." The solution for that is a tissue. There you go. Fix that right up. That wouldn't be very helpful. Assuming that you are hearing things accurately and assuming a certain level, call it more than rudimentary, but not necessarily perfect pitch, assuming that you're hearing things accurately, then addressing your engagement of airflow and how it interacts with the vocal fold will go a lot for keeping your pitch, getting your intonation, pitch, intonation, or synonymous much more accurate. Now, those things are true wherever you are in your range. If you're singing higher and higher, however, the balance of airflow and vocal fold engagement changes. And we learn about that by practicing different resonance exercises, such as the mask resonance, the how to sing high notes. If you're a male vocalist, then that has a lot of information about cricothyroid versus thyroarytenoid dominant singing and how to make that transition smooth. If you are straining for the high notes, you're forcing the thyroarytenoid muscle to do a lot more work than ideally what it's suited for, and those intonation issues may never entirely clear up. They may always be there if you continue to force it that way, which is why I talk so much about making a smooth transition through the secondo passaggio, through the break. And that's something that is in those videos, particularly the How to Sing High Notes Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 continue on the practice to help you smooth that transition out. So that is how we sing much better in tune. I do hope that helps. Maurizio, thank you. I really, really appreciate that. And thank you for showing up tonight and chiming in. I forgot to say that. Pardon me. I forgot to say at the beginning, do feel free to just say hello. If you don't have to have a question, you can just talk amongst yourselves or just say hi, whatever. I'm just glad that you're here, and thank you for watching. Me heroes. There we are. Jeff, I find the stream from YouTube homepage or from your Twitter if it's not here. Okay, cool. That's good. That's good. Susan Taylor, a question about full range alto video. I found it curious that the first exercise required holding the tongue and singing A at the same time. What is the purpose of holding my tongue? Literally. Yeah, cool. It is to take the muscle, mostly it's an awareness exercise. If you grab your tongue and you're singing with it, so yeah. If you have a habit of engaging the tongue root when you practice, by grabbing it, you will notice it. And that is really the function of it, is to notice whether or not you're engaging that tongue muscle and to become aware of it. Ideally, we want the tongue root muscle to act independently of the vowel and range that we are in so that it can be in the appropriate place for the range that we are in. The height of the tongue in the rear of the oral cavity, actually I misstated that. The tongue root needs to act independently of the musculature around the larynx. That way, it can form the right shape of vowel versus where the larynx is going to be, and we want the larynx to predominantly be in a neutral to slightly lowered position for phonation in singing. So that's what that exercise is about. It's an awareness exercise. With practice, it can help you to stop from jerking the tongue back. But it works in conjunction with the one exercise too in one of the other videos where I have the knuckle under the esophagus or at the top of the esophagus at the tongue root. and that can help make you aware of whether or not it's bobbing out. Let me know if that answers your question. Striker, I lost my mid-range voice Tuesday. Eek. About one point in the scale, it goes straight to air and no vibration. I had until then E2 to F4. Sorry, just kind of getting a sense of things. Seem to be missing or struggling at A4. I'm not sure where is your mid range then. Like, what mid range are you talking about? And if it's going straight to air, but you're doing falsetto fine, then it would seem pretty clear that you're carrying an awful lot of tension in the vocal fold. In falsetto tone production, what you're predominantly having do the what's predominantly creating the pitch is the ligament on the outer area of the vocal fold. So it would seem to me that you're holding so much tension that the vocal fold just isn't vibrating at all. If you're getting falsetto, that would take an awful lot of engagement to hold it that stable. But yeah, tell me a little bit more, like what mid range, whereabouts. Sirocco, exactly. So Ruhal, if you haven't seen that, looks like you might have a study buddy in the works here. Tom Rolston, thank you for all the hard work, Jeff, and you are welcome. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us this evening. I really appreciate it. Aditya Shiv, hello, and hello to you. Rahul, Jeff, sir, any other site where we can connect with you? JeffRolka.com. There's a teaching system online there which starts from like the rudiments and it takes it in a sequential fashion. Also, I'm getting ready to release my guidebook to my YouTube channel, which is an interactive weaving of things that can help direct you through the different videos, through the practices, what does what you can work on with what, and how to put sequences together, as well as a few sequences that I drummed up to address certain skill sets. But in that book launch, there's going to be a whole series of different things where you can get evaluations and stuff like that. So that would be the thing to do, is to get on that email list. Maestro, Aldo, Maestro. I had flu 2 days ago and I'm healing now, which is excellent. And you're making your vocal booth and it sounds too boxy. Maybe bass traps also the perfect recipe for me as I'm skipping down to read that. Singing warm-up and over the break practice. This combination makes full open. Love it. Awesome. And yeah, and that's exactly how that's why I'm writing the guidebook the way I am. I figured that, you know, all of you would come up with your own combinations of videos that would serve your needs. And some would be based on time and skill sets and ranges and all sorts of different things like that. And so that's what you can do with that. But that's fantastic. And yeah, excellent. In terms of the boxiness of your vocal booth, it depends a little bit on the size. And it depends on how much natural kind of ambiance you want in the vocal booth. You might consider a diffuser if you want to have a little bit liver sounding room. And diffusers are typically a harder material. They can be, they don't have to be anything fancy. It can be a hard plastic. The fancier ones are wood. And they look kind of like, if you looked at like a picture of Manhattan, like New York, from the sky, and it has all the towers of different heights, that's what diffusers look like. And if you put one in the front and one at the back, they can do a lot to break up echoes, standing waves, and that's part of what would be making your booth sound boxy. If you want it really, really dead, like super, super just, really like no ambiance of any kind, like you're in an anechoic chamber or something like that, then bass traps and foam. but mostly foam. Anything foam. It's all about breaking up standing waves to cut down reflections. Reflections are what our ear and brain perceive as space. So a lot of times, like if you listen to, certainly in popular genres, there's a lot of reverb used, but there's a lot of delay, echoes that are used as well. And that gives a lot of space to the sound of the vocal without muddying the mix up with all the decay of the verb. So there is your recording tip for today too. I am glad you're healing from the flu, though. That's rotten. Susan Taylor, I am also feeling a cold coming on. My throat is sore. How can I sing and not cause more irritation in my throat while I'm fighting this cold? Any recommended remedies? TLC, when you can, first and foremost, obviously fluids, room temperature. If you find that you cannot vocalize over the secondo passaggio, then I recommend you take time off. It doesn't have to be a lot of time off, just a little bit. And my favorite thing is echinacea tea with a small amount of honey. I think it's like traditional medicinals or something like that. And I really like that. It doesn't seem to do anything but feel better to me. And finally, if that is disagreeable to you, and please take that on advisement. If you have any allergies of any kind, you need to check that prior to trying it. The other thing that I find can be quite pleasant is ginger tea, which is literally just chopped up ginger that is put in boiling water, a little bit of honey, a drop or two of lemon juice in there to kind of smooth things over, and that can be quite pleasant. It doesn't do a whole lot for me, but it's just very comforting. So, Stryker does not like spiders. I don't particularly like spiders either, but I couldn't help myself with the Spider-Man joke. I read the Aldo comment, Aditya, how to sing in high mix like Sam Smith or others and sound really full. I tried to cover one today, however, I kind of felt weak when I tried to hit high mix. I mean, I can hit, but something is missing. Difficult to say without hearing you. However, the one thing about singing in that range, well, you know what? That's actually just in marking the pitch. Right? I think that's the melody from the one tune that I'm thinking of his. Started with the NG song, the NG exercise, and balance the brightness of it so that it's not, so that it's a little warmer, right? Instead of being where it's very far forward, don't let it be so far out in the front that it's really, really brilliant. Though you need some of that to really make it project and make it sound warm. Without those higher partials, it will sound dull and out of tune. And then from there, start checking in with airflow. Notice how I'm phrasing through the high note. I believe in the song, it's rearticulated. We have to sing through that. Our voice will respond better with consistent airflow. You can still sing the two syllables up there, but you have to keep the air moving through it. When the NG is working for you, start transitioning into the high note of the phrase onto an ah vowel and then work your way down. As you get further and further along, back the process up so that you're doing and then from there you get into your vowel sounds and then get into the actual singing of the melody using all the syllables of it. I'm not sure if that's the right key or not, but if I remember correctly, it's like an A or a B flat, and that was an A above middle C there where I placed the melody at. In either case, it's somewhere in that range, and that's the process. And just keep on working with that resonance in the first stage of it. to get it dialed in so that you like it. Notice your airflow in all of this. If you are feeling really tight through here, you are going to cut down on the overall resonance of your voice, and it's going to make it it's not going to sound as rich and as full as you might like it to if you're carrying a lot of tension in the throat. So it should really feel quite light, but still have that nice connected tone there. Zoroko is talking to Stryker and Stryker back and forth. I love it when you guys talk to each other. It's really, really cool. Jaheim, good afternoon. Welcome. Yeah, welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Greg, this is Greg's Life 7. Do you have any advice for smoothing out phrases? Apparently, I have a bit of a stutter, hesitation at the beginning of notes sometimes. Well, that's two different things, isn't it? Kind of, maybe. I'm not sure. If you mean at the very beginning of the phrase, then we're talking about the tonal onset. If you're talking about in the middle of the phrase, smoothing out phrases. If we're talking about the middle of phrases, then focus on your vowels. Connect the vowels. The consonants, and this varies from genre to genre. Before, you may have seen me do no, that's the attitude meter. Never mind, different thing. It's the spectrum of intelligibility is what I talk about when I talk about consonants. P's, D's, T's, all the consonants in music. Where whatever genre you're singing, then it will require more or less amount of attention to the consonants. So if you're in musical theater, then you have to be understood. And so you require a lot of consonants that can have quite an impact on our phrasing. If you're singing vocalese, well, then there's little to no consonants anyways, and so you don't have to worry about it at all. Most of us are somewhere in between. Focus on the vowels. That's the short answer to that question. Think about singing the phrase from vowel to vowel to vowel rather than from start of word, if it's a consonant, to start of word, to syllable, to start of word. Focus on the vowels. Connect the vowels. Take the consonants out in your practice and focus on the vowels. In terms of the hesitation at the beginnings of your notes, address your engagement. If you are not maintaining your engagement in the pauses in between or in the moment right before you begin your tonal onset, then there can be a little bit of a lag time there. So, check in with your engagement. Put your arms over your head and see if that helps it. If it does, then you have to reevaluate how you're maintaining your support, or as I prefer to call it, engagement, in the pauses in between notes. And there's a lot of good practice with that in the diaphragmatic warm-up. Right, station identification. I nearly got away from me. 6:30. So thank you for watching. If you are a subscriber, thank you so much. If you have not yet subscribed, I hope that you'll consider doing so now. The chat is obviously open, and I love it. So let's just carry on. Susan, by the way, I did watch last week's video because I wasn't on the chat. I'm trying to catch up. Thank you. Thank you very much. We broke 1 million views, which is really, really cool. And I did enjoy I ate so much of that silly cake, man. I really like Victoria sponge cake. It's just, I know it's a very plain kind of a thing, but I really like it. And I ate way too much of that cake. But it was delicious and I enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it. And thank you for signing up for the email list over at jeffrolka.com. I'll have a new video coming out, or a new little bitty thing, along with some information coming out on the 25th for that. That's when I do those releases right now. Stryker is talking to Greg. Zoroko is going to be right back. Thank you for clarifying BRB. I am not entirely in the know in the lingo of these things. I haven't really figured out my Twitter game. I always feel sort of I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what to do over there. Yeah. So thank you for clarifying. El Salo, I remember you. Hey, welcome back. Uh, Thank you. Thank you very much. You think with your years of experience, anyone with study and dedication and good lyrical technique can sing well enough to live music? Anyone with study? I think what you're asking is, can anybody with practice sing well? And the answer is absolutely. I suppose the one caveat is that there are there. I have to assume that there are those who have some type of impediment or disability or have been injured in some way that could prevent the mechanisms from operating properly or could have damaged their hearing such that they cannot perceive pitch, which is a horrible thing to think about. And that would, that would be obviously problematic. But yeah, I think that all of us can improve with practice and do great things. So yeah. Michael, I remember this question had been asked before about how to sing low without lowering larynx and sounding airy. How to stretch voice in that direction. Okay, so you're eventually gonna. All right, I talk about these things in terms of consistent vocal quality. So if you don't mind that your voice is going to sound really different, then there's a lot more bottom end that you can find. And to a certain extent, practicing in the extremities of our range can help to overall broaden our usable range. In terms of usable range, depending on your voice type, at least in the beginning, think lighter and brighter, and then start to engage a little bit more and provide a little more airflow. That being said, for me, when I'm warmed up, a C natural, that one, is about as low as I typically like to sing. Getting any lower than that, and things start to break down, unless I start to do some extenuating things with my larynx and also the overall timbre of my voice. Usable range will be different from ultimate range. There's a range that we can all practice when, a very broad range to practice our skill set, practice expanding our range. But the usable range will always be ever so slightly less than that. Perhaps. There's always exceptions to that rule. But yeah, start light and bright and then start to press into it a little bit more. And, knowing your fosh, like I know I'm never going to have a big, rich baritone sound down there, and I'm fine with that. You may find that with additional practice and more engagement in the thyroarytenoid muscle, you can get a bit more. However, transitioning into your upper register will be challenging and will probably require, just a lot of getting used to that, so that knowing where you are in your range and you can stay flexible enough to make those transitions easily. Albeza, sorry, I hope that's close. How can I make my voice more resonant? I am a soprano. Well, first of all, I don't recall seeing your name in the chat before, so welcome. There's a video called Resonance. If you search my channel for the Resonance video, the sound quality on this one's a little bit rough because it's one of the older videos on the channel. But that would be a good place to start, and it deals with matching resonances between different vowel sounds. So there's two things to resonance. One is figuring out what resonance is, and two is making it so that it's between all the different vowel sounds. To have a resonant voice, we need to have the soft tissues in the oral cavity released. That requires good engagement and airflow, and it also requires that the vocal fold only have as much muscle engagement as is necessary in any given range to produce the required pitch. So if I'm here, he, I'm neither pressing, right, where I'm really forcing the voice to do that, neither am I too light on the vocal fold. Getting airy. We want the middle ground. From there, and you can talk about upper resonance and mask resonance, which is how to sing with mask resonance. You can look that video up and do that. And then, and all these things come together. The reality is we work on them one at a time. You work a little bit on mask resonance. You work a little bit on balancing your tone. You work some on airflow. You go back around the circle again. You practice some melismatic exercises. You know, trying to notice that the transition between the two vowels is smooth and the resonance is similar, if not the same. And we keep doing it, and we keep going and going and going. Marco. Hi, Jeff. Why sometimes even I did my warm-ups and worked on opening my throat, I sneeze, and suddenly, yeah, sneezing, coughing, any of those things where there's a lot of very aggressive muscle engagement in the oral cavity can kind of wipe out whatever you've done. The worst thing for me is if I take a drink and I get like a little bit of the fluid down the wrong pipe and I start to cough and hack. That engages so much of the musculature in the top of the esophagus, the tongue root, and the oral cavity. I almost need to just start over at that point. It's one of the few things that happen. It doesn't happen to me too frequently, thankfully, but it's one of the few things that will still happen to me today that can almost require me to start all over again. But ultimately, that's it. It's just all those muscles getting used really, really aggressively over a short period of time. And, of course, with sneezing, too, it's also your sinuses. The New York mic, head voice, please. Yes, I refer to that as cricothyroid dominant singing. That's the musculature associated with head voice phonation or tone production. So anything on the channel that says full range for your fosh, for your vocal range, will have you singing above the secondo passaggio in what would be head voice. If you're new to it, and by the M-I-K-E, I don't know if you mean microphone or mic, but if you are male, then there's How to Sing High Notes, Part 1, 2, and 3 for male vocalists, and there's also How to Sing in Head Voice. You can search the channel for How to Sing in Head Voice, and that takes you through the process of doing that as well. So if you're new to it, How to Sing in Head Voice. If you can already do it, pick anything full range. And I'm finally, FYI, for those of you who've been asking me and on me, and thank you for staying on me, about the third transition point in the voice, I'm getting ready to do that. I got a really cool exercise, and I hadn't thought about it in a long time, and I'm really excited. I think you're going to really enjoy this one. So, Rocco, I keep singing without doing warm-up lessons. I can do the warm-up, but I'm slacking because school and laziness. It happens. We all go through those stages. Every once in a while, I sort of give myself a pass on warming up, and I'll just get into my repertoire, get into singing songs. And then a week or two go by, and I kind of notice things getting a little slack around the edges, and I'm like, back into the warm-ups, back into the vocalizations. El Salo, I say, for example, when we see so many cases of people want to be famous, but singing sound really ugly, with an ugly voice type, we have future with lyric techniques. I'm not exactly sure what the question is there, but I'm not sure what to say to that. Basically, what I'm taking from that is there's a lot of famous people who don't sing very well. That's true to a certain extent, and there's a lot of famous people that do sing really, really well. Moses Avalon wrote a book called So You Want to Be a Record Producer. And if you have had any dealings with the music industry at all, it can be one of the funniest things you have ever read. And I would recommend that you check it out because if you are selling millions and millions of records, then you are not necessarily making there are always exceptions to this rule. There are always exceptions. You're not necessarily there to make an artistic statement. You're there to sell records. And that's cool. Like, selling bajillions of records is really, really cool. I have an old joke that I used to say, I'm waiting to sell out. I'm just, no one's buying. And that's fine. That has worked out fine, actually. But I say all this to say, make the record you want to make. I'm quoting Madonna. Make the record you want to make. Sing what you want to sing. If you should happen to become famous because of it, more power to you. For those that are singing and, maybe don't have the best vocal technique or don't sound as good as maybe we might like, well, then there's lots of other people that you can listen to. You can choose to listen to somebody else. And I would do that. Greg is talking to Stryker. It's a bit counterintuitive, but getting solid adduction on low notes is the same muscle that gets you good falsetto. Yeah, the thyroarytenoid muscle is going to end up being the one that is going to have the vocal folds slightly separated as you ascend way up high. Stryker at Jeff. I suppose that's me. Thanks. You're welcome. It's hard for me to say exactly, but the tension is what we are looking at. I had cervical fusion surgery twice, and I always lose that when I scroll. I seem to have small muscle contractions now at the voice box. Then I would absolutely recommend you have that looked at by somebody. If you're getting a little muscle tweak there, I couldn't even begin to guess what might be going on. But yeah, if it's really, really if it's really irritating, then maybe have an ENT look at it or have your surgeon look at it or whatever. If something is amiss, they would be able to advise you as to what can be done. But yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Jaheim, does vocal range increase with age? I suppose it depends on what age you're starting at. For those of us who are male, and our voices change, then there can be an initial truncation of the overall range, and then we can learn to put a lot of that back, but the overall range will have shifted. Ultimately, as we get way on the other side of that and start to get into our getting a little bit gray here, 50s and 60s, then we lose some muscle elasticity, just like the rest of our body. And ultimately, the thyroarytenoid muscles and the cricothyroid muscles are muscles. And as they lose some elasticity, we can lose a little bit of range. So, no, just the opposite typically happens. Stryker. How to relax around the larynx. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. The best way to relax your larynx is to start with monitoring it. So use a mirror, use your hand, and I mean, like, it's so light. Like, it's just barely touching the skin, right? Just keep it barely hovering over the larynx and monitor it while you are singing. If you find that it's lifting as you ascend, then one of the exercises you can do is in the How to Lower Your Larynx video, where you're grabbing the tongue. That can help you become more aware of the musculature that is at the tongue root, and learning to separate its motion from the larynx will help you keep the larynx in a more neutral position. And also, in the How to Sing High Note video, it's got that very, very dopey open sound. You. To create that sound without getting a really airy sound, your larynx will have to be in a neutral to lowered position. And so you can begin that practice that way too. So grabbing the tongue, a little bit of biofeedback, and also auditory feedback. Those would be the ways that I would begin the process of neutralizing your larynx. Blue, third up. After how to sing high notes exercise, my voice gets softer and lighter. Is that okay? Should be, as long as it's not airy. If it's airy, that's not the right idea. So softer and lighter is cool. Airier, not so cool. If you want it to get a bit fuller, you want to work towards fullness, then address your resonance. Check out the how to sing in your mask. Something else. The endurance video. But your airflow is going to have to really, really be solid. Otherwise, you're going to end up inducing a lot of vocal strain with that video. So those would be ways to start bringing it. Yeah, softer and lighter. I'm a little bit concerned about that. That might not be entirely the right avenue. Certainly a little lighter, but again, if it's airy, not so good. Yeah, there's a demonstration video that can show you what I mean by having a smooth transition into the cricothyroid dominant singing voice. If you search demonstration, you'll find it. And I go through both the secundo and the third transition in my voice by way of demonstration. Have a listen to that and see if that's what you're getting. Strucker, surgery 10 years ago. Ah. And looks like you've talked to Greg. Aldo, thank you. My idea is to record completely dead vocals and then put artificial reverb. I'm going to make tea now and enjoy the lesson. Wonderful. Enjoy your tea. Yeah, then foam is your friend. Foam that place up. Elizabethian retracted her question. El Salo, thanks, and that's not my case. I love my tessitura too much, and my teachers too, and working many hours all day cause a will live of music in a few months. I'm not sure what that means, but it sounds like things are going really, really well, so keep it up. That's wonderful. That's really, really great. Jahan, and I managed to make my overtones louder. Really glad about that. Excellent. Yeah, the overtones in the voice are what make us sound full and in tune, particularly as we get into our upper registers. Without them, it will sound flat, and it won't have that vibrancy, much less any kind of projection. So well done. Yes, absolutely. Live your dream. Absolutely. Elizabethan, Maestro, would you please explain how to get better pinch control? Pitch control. Got it. I was like, pinch. I wasn't sure exactly. Pitch control. Okay, so if you are having intonation issues, there's a variety of different ways to approach this. One, find a neutral singing voice. So start in your chest voice range, thyroid dominant singing voice. Use only as much airflow and vocal fold engagement as is necessary to create pitch. Start with some short syllables. He is a really good one if you have good engagement of airflow. He. That can inform you as to how much vocal fold you really need, how much engagement you need, and how much airflow you need. Move that around your range. As you move higher, if you find that that's when intonation issues start to creep in, you are almost certainly engaging too much muscle control around the larynx, too much vocal fold engagement. Take a look at your airflow. Take a look at vowel modifications. And vowel modifications are principally done to widen the vowel so that we maintain or allow airflow to increase sufficiently as we get into our zona de passaggio. Without adequate airflow in the zona de passaggio, vocal fold musculature is going to have to make up the discrepancy to get us close to the pitch. And usually that results in being out of tune, almost always. So that's the short answer to that. It's depending on where you are in your overall musical development. However, a certain level of acuity you might need more overall acuity in how you're listening to things. Start with wide intervals. We, we. You don't necessarily have to do the scale, but wider intervals, and then move into narrower and narrow intervals from there. We. Finally, scales. We need to dial in how we hear things and how we evaluate it. If you're still having problems, and actually, even if you're not, you should then, if you really, really want to get your intonation super, super accurate, start working on solfege. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Because with solfege, then you can start anticipating do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do, without having to hear it. And that's where we need to go, because with adequate anticipation of the pitch, you're going to come at it with a nice released vocal fold mechanism with adequate airflow, because you'll be anticipating it, and your intonation will get really, really dialed in. That's a long process. That's not like something you do over the weekend. That's an ongoing process too. It's just something that becomes part of our practice. So Rocco, any tip on understanding progress toward voice transition from bad to good? Patience. Be patient. And this is part of why I recommend recording yourself every 2 weeks, every month. And it doesn't have to be a lot. Just a little bit. Just a few snippets. A verse and a chorus of a song, or a few vocalizations, a few exercises. And then review them and start to notice the difference. You'll start to hear the difference. This is also just good for learning to listen critically to your own voice and to voices in general, so that you can begin to discern what needs work, and just, again, overall get more acuity in your listening skills. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of a general idea about moving in that direction. Yeah, a little bit of recording, very neutral practice. Notico Productions, I want to learn how to get in my mixed voice, balanced resonance. Start with a how to sing high notes video, part 1, and then it goes through parts 2 and 3 on all sorts of different exercises to balance the resonance. Additionally, how to sing in head voice. If you search for that on my channel, then you can find that process represented there as well. And any tips? It's all in those videos. It is all in those videos. But the main tip is, is there any one tip for singing well in the head voice? I don't think so, because it's just not, it's not rocket science, but it really takes a lot of awareness of the vocal mechanism and a lot of defined skills. Oh yeah, you know what, the one main tip, here's one, if you really, really want to sing in mixed voice or your upper register, cricothyroid dominant singing, and you want to do it quickly, and you want to have super accurate pitch and good resonance, practice your chest voice. Make it well balanced. Make it of a neutral sound. Make sure that can be done in the 5 main vowels that we practice in vocalizations before you start to practice your head voice. Start there. That's the main tip, because all too frequently we try to rush into the upper register, and we haven't developed the prerequisites yet. Albitsa, you're welcome. Check out the videos. Thank you, Albesa. Thank you so much for writing that out. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. El Salo, have a nice day. Thank you. You have a nice day as well. I will be one of some singers of my age with a great range. Good. And I really love to be a tenor at my 16 years old. Have a nice day too. Thank you for joining us. Aldo is talking at El Salo. Striker, Please, yes, thank you. Let me know how it goes. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your questions. Aldo, why Jim Morrison became famous? Because he was a great singer? Because he was a crazy. Maybe so. Maybe so. Stryker is talking to Aldo. Aldo, or you can be crazy with a great voice. That doesn't hurt. If you want to be famous, like, Freddie Mercury, man, that dude was. If you read about some of the stuff that went on, man, there was some crazy stuff that went on. But boy, could he sing, huh? Sorry, I was getting back in here. The only one who can prevent you from this is yourself. That is right. That is absolutely right, Aldo, and thank you for writing that out there. We just have to keep going. We just have to keep going every day, and a little bit, and a little bit more, and we just keep on going and going and going. JC's Radiant Ray, are there any videos on the channel regarding release? I was singing with a friend, and my release increased very significantly. Any ideas as to why? Boy, release can occur at the strangest times, but if you'd been singing for a while and you're very comfortable and you'd been going over the song or whatever it was you were singing, a couple times, and you're just easing your way into it, then you can start to relax into it. In a way, so much of I don't know if there's a specific video that I talk about release. I may have to address that more directly. A creator, if you want to make it out there, you should create your own stuff, your own persona, your own perception of life through music. Yeah, I love it, Aldo. Jahan, how does vibrato work? I know how to use it, but how it works is a mystery to me. Vibrato in a well-adducted, where the vocal fold is meeting well-balanced system with adequate airflow, there can be a slight oscillation between the vocal fold and the air column. And it's just the two kind of working in parity, pushing easily back and forth and resonating against one another, and so you get that fluctuation, which is a vibrato. Stryker is talking to Aldo. Heidi, hello, welcome. Better late than never. Still worth reading comments, listening to your advice. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad that you made it. He's talking to Stryker. Aldo, things to create a stage persona. Aldo, but I don't think that. They're still talking. Blue third up. Well, agile is great. Saying instead of light and soft, agile. Agile sounds great. Agility is excellent. That would indicate a really, really good balance between engagement and airflow. My congratulations. That's like one of the ultimate goals, I think, in all of this is to be agile. And I'm going to do some new videos on agility and riffing in the very near future, not before the third Passaggio video. And that's... thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry, I was reading Aldo's comment. I'm glad that it's working so well for you, Aldo. And I hope you just kill it on the billboard as well. I hope that you... I don't know if it'll say Aldo. I kind of want it to say Aldo at the top. I think that would be really cool. But I don't know if that's actually your name. So, I will remember. Susan, have a great day. I am going to say goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much. Stryker, Freddie Mercury was... no one's actually entirely sure, but they do think he was a baritone. Thank you all so much. What a great session tonight. Great conversations, great questions. Love it when you guys chat with each other. It's so cool to see. And I'll see you next week. So take really good care of your voices, enjoy singing, and I'll see you then.